OpenAI.
AI.
Artificial intelligence.
So, there's been a lot of noise lately about artificial intelligence. Every few weeks, these huge tech companies decide to drop a new chatbot that sets a benchmark higher than the ones before. But how exactly do these companies fight to become the best? Well, the easy answer here is money. Hundreds of billions of dollars that are being poured into the research and development process. Most people know the big three: OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, and xAI's Grok. But here's the thing, there's more to it. Besides these names, there are thousands of other large language models launching behind the scenes. In fact, while drafting our research paper, a Chinese company, Moonshot AI, released their Kimi K2 thinking model, and it immediately topped multiple index charts we were studying. But in the 2 months that we've been researching this topic, we wanted to figure out one question: which model is actually the best right now? Well, the answer is, we don't know. We've analyzed hundreds of articles, graphs, and performance metrics, which backed up this idea that there isn't one specific model better than the rest. But we did see patterns, clear advantages that some companies have, and specific weaknesses others are trying to hide. And that felt important to share. Before we dive in, we'd like to mention that data online is all over the place. Different sources rank the same model differently, so we cross-checked every chart and benchmark using multiple sources, all of which you can find below the video or on our website at teamstreamline.base44.app. Okay, let's figure this out. Before we start comparing these modern AI models, we need to zoom out, because this whole AI moment didn't begin with students using ChatGPT to do their homework, or even anything digital. It goes back almost 80 years. Roll the clock back to the 1940s. Computers were the size of rooms, and people building them were already asking a wild question: can a machine think? One of those people was a mathematician named Alan Turing, who basically laid the foundation for this entire field.
It's a combination of multiple factors. Like AI has been an area of interest for, let's say, 70, 80 years, off and on. And there were always periods where great progress was being made, and then there was more funding, and at some point there were limitations that were reached. And then that didn't mean that the research didn't continue, right?
This concept from Assistant Professor Eger is about a small group of researchers who met at Dartmouth College. This is the moment a lot of historians call the birth of AI. They literally sat in a room all summer and said, yeah, we think we can replicate human intelligence. Spoiler, they couldn't. But that optimism kicked off decades of experimentation. Then came the AI winters of the 1970s and 80s, when funding dried up because progress wasn't matching the hype. Governments pulled money and companies backed off. But in the 2010s, things changed. We got better computer chips with more data and crucial neural networks that could finally learn from the data. Suddenly, AI wasn't so theoretical anymore. We had systems that could recognize images, translate languages, and write paragraphs. However, it was all rather nuanced up until 2017, when researchers introduced something called the transformer. This is the architecture that almost every modern LLM is built on, and this is exactly when the AI race started. OpenAI, Google, xAI, huge firms with enormous capital at stake, began pushing for bigger and bigger models. These things trained on internet-scale data and ran on massive GPU clusters. And this brings us back to today, where 3 or 4 major players are fighting to build the smartest AI model. And to understand which one is actually ahead, we need to see how they got there in the first place. So let's start with the AI model that we hear the most, ChatGPT. OpenAI was founded back in 2015 as this idealistic research lab. You've got big names like Sam Altman, Elon Musk, and a bunch of other big Silicon Valley names. Their pitch was, we're going to build a powerful AI, but do it safely and for everyone. Fast forward a few years later, OpenAI creates a for-profit arm, taking billions from Microsoft, and in 2022 launches ChatGPT. As more users get hooked on the idea of a tailored Google search process, ChatGPT begins scaling rapidly, becoming the app that your teacher yells at you about, your boss secretly uses at work, and a model that no one from a decade ago would have believed is real. OpenAI's newest model is GPT 5.x, which we base most of the independent benchmarks on. Okay, first up, this is a chart that shows the intelligence of these models. This index is based on two main factors: 1, logical reasoning, and 2, problem-solving skills. More specifically, it takes in 10 different evaluations, ranging from humanity exams, to coding, to mathematics. Within the vast market of AI models, GPT 5.2 is ranked first, right with Google's Gemini 3 Pro. Older model GPT 5.1 is further down the list with an index of 67, behind models from Google, Anthropic, and Moonshot. In the big picture, we can see that the intelligence of ChatGPT is number 1 on the chart. But by diving into specific evaluations, we can see certain strengths and weaknesses. Testing the model's reasoning and knowledge capabilities, a MMLU Pro test, otherwise a massive multitask language understanding test, placed GPT 5.2 and 5.1 back to back, just short of the performances by Gemini and Anthropic's AI models. You'll hear the names quite a bit. For longer context reasoning, OpenAI's GPT 5.1 actually outperforms the updated version of 5.2, but in this test, both models are still very competitive in first and fourth respectively. In science, related subjects like biology, chemistry, and physics, GPT 5.2 slots in second, sandwiched between Gemini's Pro and fast models. For math, the 5.2 model scores a 99% on the 2025 American Invitational Mathematics Examination, otherwise the AMY test, a common math competition amongst high school students. Model 5.1 is in fourth place behind Google and Xiaomi's Mimo model. We stress to make these specific comparisons so you know which model to use for your occasion.
Models will have different strengths and weaknesses. It always depends on that. It depends on financial questions. Oh, I buy a new Pixel phone, I get Gemini Pro for free. Well, then I will use that one. Not because it's better, but because the barrier of entry is lower.
This leads to something that ChatGPT really struggles in, which is its context window, 400,000 tokens. This is the context window that both GPT 5.1 and 5.2 have. A context window represents the amount of information an AI model can process. For reference, a context window of around 1 million tokens represents about 4 million characters, or roughly 2,500 pages of text. This means that the GPT 5.x model can only process about 1.6 million characters, or roughly 600 pages of text. Looking at the graph, that is 5 times less than what Grok 4.1's fastest model can process. The significance behind this is that once a model processes the beginning stages of your input, it will forget the information to help process what's at the end. With the smaller context window, you are losing key information when prompting the AI outside of its limit. So if you put it all together, OpenAI's GPT 5.x models are very competitive amongst the other chatbots. In this video, we're not just going to look at marketing claims. Besides making the evaluation comparisons, we also wanted to test each model ourselves. To do so, we will prompt each AI model with the same script and see the side-by-side comparisons. So which AI model is the best, if you were to choose one? Let's see here. Seems ChatGPT shares a similar view in that there isn't a specific model that's the best. But immediately we see it recommends its own models, in this case the GPT-4 variant, then goes on to specify why their models are the best, and eventually provides us some other names, including Claude, Gemini, and Llama, Meta AI's new model. Interesting. Google has been trying to prove something. For years, they've been sitting on piles of breakthrough research. In fact, they literally invented the transformer architecture that modern AI is built on. In 2023, Google CEO Sundar Pichai merged two of the most powerful AI labs in the world, British tech lab DeepMind and Google's AI sector, Google Brain. After this merger, the keys were handed to Demis Hassabis, a neuroscientist and chess prodigy who founded DeepMind in London back in 2010. Google DeepMind faced enormous pressure. As one, if not the largest tech company in the world, Google had to make one of the most powerful AI models. In just a few years, the team built Bard, which was the predecessor to what we now know as Gemini. What's unique about Gemini's new latest 3 Pro model was that it was built from day one to be natively multimodal, something that didn't just read text, but also understood images, audio, video, and code under one unified language. We've heard a lot about Gemini during the comparison with ChatGPT, so let's look back at some of those same charts. Gemini 3 Pro's overall intelligence index is ranked first, alongside GPT 5.2, which shows you the innate similarities between these models.
They all say the same thing. Another paper that just came out of this year's New Rips. I think they went through like 200 models. Like they went through like a lot of these systems, and what they're finding is just like it's a lot of the same thing.
This is true. Even if the wording varies from model to model, the answers and results are very alike. You'll be able to see this when we plug in the same script from earlier to these other models. In the same MMLU Pro evaluation from earlier, we see Gemini 3 Pro take the lead, separating itself amongst the field alongside Cloud's Opus and Sonnet. However, Gemini doesn't top every chart. Both the Pro and specifically the Flash struggle in long context reasoning. For scientific reasoning, Gemini again shines its light, with the Pro and Flash models scoring above a 90%, only separated by GPT 5.2. For the math evaluation, Gemini is short of GPT 5.2 by a margin of 2%, which in this context is quite large considering the top 14 models all scored above a 90%. In terms of Gemini's context window, both models have a 1 million token limit, which is more than double of the GPT 5.x pair. This 1 million token window is also in Meta AI's Llama, Anthropic's Cloud, Amazon's Nova, and Nvidia's Nemotron. Google DeepMind has announced that their models have been tested to reach a 2 million token window, which will eventually allow users to plug in longer and more complex prompts. So far, Gemini displays its strengths and weaknesses compared to ChatGPT, but overall, the two are on par in terms of overall intelligence. Let's return back to the prompt and see how Gemini will respond. Okay, it's definitely taking a little longer to respond compared to ChatGPT, but let's see. Okay, so we see the initial preface again that it depends on the reason you're using the models for. It's also quite interesting how it mentions the big three, but in this case instead of Grok, it's Anthropic. Unlike ChatGPT, gives 4 winners of 4 different scenarios. GPT-5 for logic and reasoning, which reflects our graph, Cloud for writing and human nuance, and Gemini 3 Pro for context and multimodality, and Llama 4 for privacy and local use. It helps sum up its response by choosing one model, and surprisingly, it's not itself. It chose ChatGPT because its main rival, according to them, has the app experience, voice mode, and the versatility to make it the best Swiss Army knife. Quite an unselfish and objective response. Moving on. Grok is Elon Musk's attempt to redefine what an AI chatbot can be. It launched in late 2023 under his company xAI, and from the beginning, it was marketed as something different, not as a polished corporate assistant or a thorough researcher, but rather as a chatbot with personality, a sarcastic, witty, and even a rebellious one. The name itself comes from a 1961 sci-fi novel, Stranger in a Strange Land, where to grok means to deeply understand something. That's the ambition here. An AI that doesn't just answer questions, but genuinely understands them. While most AI models are trained on static datasets that are frozen in time, Grok taps directly into Musk's empire of X, Tesla, and Starlink. This means it can pull fresh information instantly. Ask it about the latest SpaceX launch, it can write you an essay about it. Ask it about trending conversations on X, it could summarize them in seconds. This real-time connection makes Grok feel alive in a way other chatbots don't. Like both Gemini and ChatGPT, Grok is also multimodal, which again means it can process text, images, audio, and video using one model. But let's focus on the specific rankings back with our handy graphs. Grok 4 and Grok 4.1 fast ranked 10th and 11th respectively on the intelligence index chart. This is noticeably weaker than the models we've compared before. Similarly, in both the reasoning and knowledge and long context reasoning evaluations, both Grok models rank behind those of Gemini 3 Pro and GPT 5.1. Things shift more towards Grok's favor, however, when we look into the scientific reasoning chart, where Grok 4 outperforms some noticeable models like GPT 5.1 and Cloud Opus. But yet again, for our math index, Grok 4 scored a 93%, falling short to models from OpenAI, Google, Xiaomi, and even more. But if there's anything that Elon Musk and the team at XAI should be proud of, is Grok's context window. Well, the 4.1 fast model at least. It has a staggering 2 million token window, which is double of Gemini and quadruple of GPT-5. As one of the newer AI industry pursuers, XAI is making strong progress in research, development, and most importantly, its uniqueness. Its uniqueness to bring up quirky responses like this, and to bring quick responses to X threads. That's the goal the team at XAI is trying to pursue. But let's take a step back from these statistics and see how Grok would respond to our prompt. Okay, in typical Grok fashion, it immediately recommends itself as the model to use. It does provide some valid justification, including its real-time search capabilities, but like our previous responses, it provides other models to choose from, but it shuts down the case by recommending itself again. Okay, so there's been a lot of new AI companies pushing to release their own models. One of these companies that caught our attention when researching was Anthropic. While digging through our graphs and comparisons, we figured that they deserved a spotlight. Anthropic certainly isn't an understated company, but they truly aren't talked about enough. You'll see why. Let's briefly introduce the origins of Anthropic. This company actually formed from a split inside OpenAI. Back in 2021, a group of researchers left the company after growing disagreements about how safe the models were. It wasn't one dramatic walkout moment. It was a slow buildup of concerns about governance, about commercialization, and about how powerful these systems were becoming. At the center of that split were Dario and Daniela Amode. Dario had been one of the lead researchers behind OpenAI's frontier models, working directly on safety, alignment, and the behavior of increasingly capable systems. He saw how quickly these models were improving, and how unpredictable they could become when scaled. Inside OpenAI, he pushed for more focus on safety research to allow a deeper understanding before deploying more powerful systems. But the gap between capability and control kept widening. On one side, the pressure to build larger, more commercially viable AI systems was accelerating. On the other hand, the safety work, the kind of research meant to make these systems understandable and predictable, wasn't scaling at the same pace. Daniela, who handled operations and policy challenges inside OpenAI, saw the same tension. To her, the issues weren't just technical, it was structural. How do you build an organization where safety isn't an afterthought, but the foundation? Together with several researchers, they left to form a new company. They called it Anthropic. And the goal wasn't to build a bigger model than OpenAI, it was to build a safer one. They started with an idea called the constitutional AI. The belief that the large language models shouldn't just imitate human examples, they should be trained to follow a written set of principles. Instead of relying on crowdsourced reinforcement learning, the model critiques its own responses based on its constitution, revising them to fit a consistent set of rules. It was a slow, structured approach, almost the opposite of the move fast and break things mentality that was taken over by the rest of the industry. But guess what? It ended up working. Anthropic's AI chatbot Cloud became the result of that philosophy, a model built around stability, long-form reasoning, and predictability. And this is the last model we'll be focusing on. Back to the graphs one more time. For our intelligence index comparison, we see that Cloud Opus 4.5 slides behind Gemini's Flash model, matching GPT 5.1's index of 70. In terms of reasoning and knowledge, Cloud is quite competitive, with both models Opus and Sonnet ranking above ChatGPT and Grok. Likewise, in long context reasoning, Cloud is second to GPT 5.1, but still ahead of Grok and even now Gemini. Cloud does struggle when it comes to scientific reasoning, coming just behind all three platforms. And similarly, for the Amy competition, a 91% puts itself in 12th place. And the last comparison is the context window. Cloud's Sonnet model has a competitive window of 1 million tokens, while Opus can only take in a mere 200,000. A huge factor in putting so much time and effort into evaluating Anthropic was to showcase that there are so many other models out there that can indeed compete with the bigger names that we know. It's not just Anthropic. There's Moonshot, DeepSeek, Meta, and even Xiaomi, a Chinese technology company that builds jumping cars amongst other things. But before we jump into our final test prompt, we want to bring up another comparison that Professor Eger brought to our attention: hallucinations. From artificial analysis, hallucinations are defined as how often the model answers incorrectly when it should have simply refused or admitted to not knowing the answers. To us, that's pretty important. If you ask a model something and it doesn't know the answer, you would probably prefer it to tell you that it doesn't know, instead of just making up a wrong answer. Now this graph shows us something very interesting. Cloud is comfortably in first with a hallucination rate less than 50%. All the other models, including the ones we've been researching, are all quite high in this comparison. Now a large part of Cloud's success in such a low rate is due to their constitutional training of the models. But is there a way for Google or OpenAI to diminish their percentages?
There's an interesting paper that says that hallucinations are always going to be a part of LLMs. So basically the answer is I can't, because they can't. They can try to limit it, and people are sharing all kinds of fun little prompting strategies, prompting tricks to try to minimize the times that it makes up information, but even that will fail. So this seems to be an inherent limitation of the architectures.
And with that, let's plug our prompt into Cloud's Sonnet model. Okay, we see here that Cloud speaks in a very conversational tone, immediately suggesting itself as the best model, although recognizing the bias. It includes the same "there isn't a best model" response before providing more options like the previous responses. Later, it guides you to ask more questions to help you select a model more fitting towards your needs. Seems Anthropic enough. In the past 2 months that we've been looking into different models, comparing different graphs, and interviewing our experts, we've come up with one definitive answer to this whole question of which AI model should we use. All of them. Use all of them for whatever need that you have. Use AI tailored for your purpose. The smartest brains gather together to pour countless hours into developing these models. They all deserve your attention.